Out there, freaks.
Are we live now?
We're live. What a week. A lot going on.
It's a fun week.
A lot to talk about. It is a fun week. This stuff is exhilarating. If you're able to distinguish between the grift and the fundamentals of the protocol and companies that are building things the right way, you're sitting pretty, you're unbothered, you're moisturized, you're loving life.
I love that meme.
Yeah.
Every good meme is based in reality.
I think we have an RHR first to start off this episode. I got a text in the Bitcoin Commons group chat this morning that there was a package delivered to the Commons, and I was requested to do a live unboxing on air. So we're going to start with a live unboxing.
We're going to start with it?
Yes. This is a post mailed for Justin Moon, who isn't here, but I was told that it is for me, not Justin. Some good OPSEC here. Thank you to whoever sent this. It's coming from BitcoinHackGuy.com. Free ad. We're going to see what we got here. No scissors, just pure raw muscle.
Straight power. I love that shirt you're wearing from the Classic.
It's a great one. I think you're going to like this hat. I might not pull it out. You know what? I'm going to wear it with pride. I don't know what Matt just did, but I got a new hat. It looks great. Did you get that one sent too?
No, this one I made, and I might have been aware of that hat coming in.
No bugs, no pod. Let me get the sticker off so I don't look like a complete loser.
You do. You have a Bluecheck on your hat.
This is what
that's where you're going to put your Neuralink.
It's going to match my pin nicely.
It's going to chip right into your head.
Feels good. Fits nice. I've got softcore porn. We got softcore porn being added to the Rabbit Hole Recap tweet in the thread. I'm wearing a verified check hat. Bluecheck, Marty Ben here. You guys are not going to believe the things I'm learning inside the Bluecheck Club. They've got some plans. One day I will tell you all their plans. The timing is not right, though.
Marty has been captured. My canary now is, if you'll know I'm compromised if I have that Bluecheck next to my name on Twitter.
We are getting.
It's nice of Twitter to have a nice simple feature to see who's compromised and who's not with a little check mark.
You may think I'm compromised. I will take the hits of you calling me compromised, cucked.
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that Titanic submarine, but I know
psyop.
The Bluechecks are covered. The Bluechecks are covering it up.
Psyop.
Very. You think it's a psyop?
No, I think it's real. I think
Well, you want to hear what happened?
It was
okay. So the Titanic had 4 people, industrialists that were anti the Fed.
Oh yeah.
And the Titanic didn't hit an iceberg; it was sunk
by torpedoes.
And as a result, they've been trying to exclude people from going to it, but it's in international waters, so they couldn't exclude it. So the Bluecheck set up this plan to have this submarine go missing around there, so that they can then forbid people for safety reasons from visiting the site of the Titanic.
You're on to
That's
something
what
there.
Yeah.
Internally, that I will signal that checks out.
It checks out, pun intended.
Yeah, it checks out.
I'm glad we got the important part of the show out of the way. Now we can just relax.
Yeah, if your freaks didn't know, it was Guggenheim. Where the street? Guggenheim was one of the guys. And there's 2 other dudes, billionaires back in the day, who were anti-Federal Reserve. We've been told a lie. James Cameron, his movie was a giant psyop.
Have you looked at his Twitter account?
He's got
the check. Yeah. He's got the check.
The reason I know it's a lie is because I'm in the Bluecheck Club, and that's where you disclose all the truth. in the club. James Cameron's running around like, yeah, people bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Draw me like one of your French girls. Really caught people into the psyop. But we do have serious things to talk about this week. I am wearing a Bluecheck hat, and there's a lot going on in the space. We are going.
By the way, freaks, I have more of these hats. So if you come to the park for our summit next month, and you do not have a Bluecheck, there's a hat waiting for you.
I think this one looks better, honestly. If we're being honest, it's just like that hat's too busy. It's like too much reading.
Too much reading for the Bluecheck brain?
6 words, too much.
Noted.
3 declarative statements, too much. Too much. We've got a lot to talk about. Like I said, a lot going on in the space right now. Before we get to all of it, let's do what we do best at the beginning of these episodes, which is hop to Clark's dashboard to check in on the state of the network. We are currently sitting.
Carlos fact checked you. It's 5 words.
I mean, actually, it might be 7 if the symbol Bluecheck. If you say 2 words,
it's like clearly not a word.
But you think of the words when you see
fucking it.
Check, Bluecheck, 7 words. Carlos, you're wrong. Current price of Bitcoin is above $30,000, sitting at $30,075. One cuckbuck's going to get you 3,325 sats. We're currently sitting at a $583.7 billion market cap. We are at block height 795,475. We are estimated to be on June 28th of this year, next Wednesday. Currently estimated to be a negative 1.9% downward adjustment. Block's been coming in at 10 minutes and 12 seconds on average. We will talk about that. We do have that on the list. According to Clark's mempool, there are 131,783 transactions in his mempool. If we go to Wiz's mempool, there are currently 333,762 transactions. So the bigger mempool is maxed out right now. More than 1 gigabyte of memory being used. There are currently 7,927.51.
Marty, you still think mempools are going to clear?
Yeah. Eventually, always. There are currently 7,927.51 Bitcoin in unspent capacity in Samurai's Whirlpool. That's 238.4 million cuckbucks in unspent value. That is the state of the network. We can jump in the mining, but I think the more pressing topic of the day, it's the big news of the day. Prime Trust, BitGo, backed out of the deal. If you freaks remember, last week or 2 weeks ago, BitGo came out and said, hey,
I think it was last week, right?
Might have been last week. We're looking to...
Oh, no, it must have been 2 weeks ago because we were remote, and last week we were in person.
Yes. Right? So 2 weeks ago, BitGo came out and said, hey, we've signed a letter of intent to acquire Prime Trust. That's all it was a letter of intent. Apparently, over the last 2 weeks, they'd done some due diligence and have decided to back away from the deal. That news broke this morning. If you listened to last week's episode and the episode 2 weeks ago, we have been warning about this. I had my spidey senses tingling that it seemed very reminiscent to the Binance FTX situation where Binance CZ came out and extended an offer to purchase FTX. They looked at the books and said, actually, we're not going to buy this bag of shit. It looks like BitGo had a similar experience with Prime Trust. They had a letter of intent to sign. BitGo is historically very conservative with the transactions they make in the space. And
are they?
Yeah. If you talk to people at BitGo, Belshi runs a pretty tight ship. And apparently Prime Trust was not up to snuff, and so that has incited somewhat of a contagion effect. Immediately, any third party that is still leveraging Prime Trust has had to alert users that their US dollar withdrawals and Bitcoin withdrawals have been halted for the time being. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've been very vocal about the concerns over Prime Trust for it feels like years now. third parties are security holes, and then third parties on top of third parties are like security holes times, to the second or whatever. Exponential security holes.
Squared.
Yeah. Whatever. I'm tired. But yeah, I mean, this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I will say, in terms of the Bitcoin only companies, it seems like they got specifically Swan and Strike. It seems they have Strike has no exposure to Prime Trust anymore, and I think Swan only has exposure for the people who opted out of transferring over to Fortress Trust. But then, I mean, there's also the question that Fortress Trust is the same founder as Prime Trust. And we talked about the case either last week or the week before, where he's like wrapped up in that other thing with bank with a Q. But anyway, look, in these types of situations, not your keys, not your coins is more true than ever, right? When there's panic in the streets, when there's people that are concerned about the solvency of different institutions, that's when we start to see even more chaos and damage kind of unfold. And there's always this collateral damage that you can't really expect. So the tried and true, stay humble, stack sats, I think that implies self-custody. Some people have told me, add self-custody to it. Well, if you're not taking custody of your Bitcoin, it's not your Bitcoin, you have an IOU. That means more true than ever, right? Hold your own keys, learn how to secure Bitcoin yourself. I have great guides at werunbtc.com. If for some reason you're listening to the show and you haven't done it yet, do it ASAP. And I think this goes across the board. Like, there's a bunch of insolvent institutions throughout the financial system, not just isolated to quote unquote crypto or Bitcoin, but also there's many banks that remain insolvent. And it's imperative that you learn how to hold Bitcoin yourself and hold that wealth yourself. It's easier than you think it is. Yes. Do we want it to be easier? Of course. Are many of us working towards making it easier? We are, but it's more accessible than you think it is, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you haven't tried. Just try it, practice, back up a wallet, restore a wallet, send a transaction, receive a transaction. Just carve out some. We have a weekend coming up. Carve out some time this weekend, and just fucking do it. Get it done.
Yeah, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, UTXO management is a good practice. I like that. And then, building on what Matt said too, if you're not comfortable taking control of your Bitcoin yet, which, as Carlos is mentioning in the comments, if you can drive a car, you should be able to manage your own keys and manage your own UTXOs.
Cars are dangerous.
Cars are dangerous.
People figure it out.
Obvious. As you can hear, there's some cars in the background here. There's people figuring it out right beyond this wall. But we would be remiss to not acknowledge the fact that there are people who do view this as something that's very scary. And if you are not ready to take control of your own keys, this thing operates on a spectrum. You have this side of the spectrum, which is you're completely holding your keys, you're in control, on this side of the spectrum where you're completely cucked by a third party with bad practices that is rehypothecating your Bitcoin or not securing it properly. And there are solutions in the middle that do have some trade-offs. I mean, River is a good example of this. They built their own infrastructure, so they have control of that. They hold their Bitcoin in multi-sig cold storage. They don't leverage any third parties. And you have other options like Unchained, which allows you to engage in collaborative custody, where you hold two keys, they hold one. So you have a little bit of hand holding there. And then something like Strike, taking advantage of their taking control of the custody of their Bitcoin under in-house as well. So they control that. They've eliminated the third party of Prime Trust in that regard. And then solutions like OnRamp, which is doing multi-sig, multi-institution custody for financial products that get you access to Bitcoin. So there's a spectrum. If you're going to not take on the burden of holding your own keys, make sure you do the research to find these service providers and exchanges that are doing it properly, using multi-sig, eliminating third-party dependencies like Prime Trust anywhere they can. And that goes to build on the discussion that we had last week about qualified custodians, and that's something I tweeted out earlier today as well, which is like, what did I say exactly? Let me find this.
I just want to add, Carlos mentions something in the comments. Strike continued to, they've been using Prime Trust for their debit card purchases, for actually getting that fiat. So with Prime Trust down, and it looks like Prime Trust is going into bankruptcy. That's the assumption here that everyone should be going into, should be assuming. With Prime Trust down, the debit card purchasing is offline. Bank transfers still work fine. And like Marty said, they control their infrastructure on the Bitcoin side. You should still withdraw if you haven't withdraw. There's no shame in running a bank that's solvent. That's exactly what we should do, run all the fucking banks. But they are working on a different partner to do debit cards. So debit cards should be back online in like a month, something like that. But until then, you still have bank transfers. And I believe direct deposits are down too. And that's like if you get your pay through Strike, if your salary is coming in direct deposit via Strike. I believe that relies on Prime Trust. Don't hold me to it. But regular bank transfers still work.
Yeah, let me see. I got the update. In my
and
email.
huge shout out to Leishman and the team at River, who painstakingly built out their entire infrastructure stack and own their entire infrastructure stack. And seem to be completely unbothered by all of this. But once again, you should withdraw from them as well. And I believe they just added auto withdrawals, which is a cool feature. I do like. If you're going to do a KYC service, it should be just auto withdrawal to self-custody, and it should be a one-way street. I think I saw Resistance
Gemini.
Money on Twitter. Yeah, he posted that Gemini flagged him because his abnormal trading pattern of just stacking sats and withdrawing to self-custody had some red flags. You will not get red flags like that from a Strike or from a River. That is their expected flow. That is exactly what they expect their users to do. I think Jack said earlier that 90% of Strike users, 90% of Bitcoin that has been purchased on Strike has been self-custodied. And that was before all of this.
Yeah. In the tweet, I found the tweet I sent earlier, which is you can have all the legal checkboxes in the world. If you don't know shit about Bitcoin security, it doesn't matter. We're operating in a new uncharted territory that the incumbent legal and financial structure does not grok quite yet. So,
are you quoting yourself, Bluecheck?
I'm just reading a tweet. Yeah,
that you wrote.
I wrote.
You were looking for a tweet that you wrote just to read it out on air.
Yeah, it's a Bluecheck of me.
Noted. Just interesting.
The point being, we had the discussion about qualified custodians and the legal risk of not operating with one, but I would argue, as Prime Trust has proven, they were a qualified custodian. You can check all the legal boxes, but if you don't have your Bitcoin security, you're not running an operationally sound business, all those legal check boxes are just house dressing.
It's fiat bullshit.
Yeah.
It's all fiat bullshit. And they, even if you look at, the way Prime Trust was holding Bitcoin was then they were relying on Fireblocks, which is a shitcoin custodian. So these companies were relying on Prime Trust, who were then relying on Fireblocks, and you were relying on them. So it's like 3 levels deep of trusted third parties, which Bitcoin fixes.
Multi-sig, multi-institution, multi-sig fixes a lot of this.
Self-custody fixes this.
Yes, that's the ultimate fix to all of this. Get your coins off the exchange, freaks.
I never expected the timeline of Marty shilling Liquid so hard, but just learn self-custody.
We're not going to redebate Liquid. There is nuance to that. There's nuance to that. That's an added layer.
Liquid is definitely multi-institution, multi-sig.
Yeah.
Or multi-institution collaborative custody or whatever.
But it comes, God, we're going to rehash it, pun intended. But then it comes with like other tokens, like Kingdom Trust, Unchained, Me, multi-sig, and Alone. There's less abstraction.
LBTC.
There's less abstraction. There's less abstraction.
LBTC, you're the one shilling it.
I'm
LBTC
not shilling it.
Is multi-institutional collaborative custody.
With a layer of abstraction with the tokens on top of it.
Those tokens are separate from the Federation. LBTC is secured by the Federation. The tokens are essentially single sig or whatever. It's just like one token issuer is issuing a token on top of the Liquid protocol. But LBTC is multi-institution, multi-sig. It's literally what it is.
Yeah, but it's two different ledgers. So you lock it up. We're rehashing it. There's a layer of abstraction. I think the model down the hall has less abstraction than Liquid.
I mean, it definitely has less institutions in the in the multi-sig as well.
That is true. So what do we think? What's going to happen with Prime Trust? Bankruptcy, obviously.
Definitely bankruptcy. Yeah. I mean, there's some people on Twitter saying there's going to be clawbacks and stuff like that. Just take self-custody. Everyone should take self-custody. The path to hyper-Bitcoinization is billions of people getting rugged over and over again until they take personal responsibility and hold their own Bitcoin themselves. And that includes the banks. And that includes Blackrock. And the Blackrock ETF is almost definitely getting approved.
I heard differently today.
I really don't think they would. You can't bet against financial corruption. I'm operating under the assumption of financial corruption will be that BlackRock is the first ETF out there, and as a result, will have the overwhelming majority of volume. Because first, that's what they did with gold, GLD.
Yeah. I don't know. My spidey sense is tingling again, where going all the way back to 2013, 2014, everybody was certain that particular ETFs were going to get approved, and they got
the Gemini Bros.
The Gemini Bros. Grayscale.
Yeah, once again,
I do think this one has a significantly higher chance of getting approved, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets denied.
BlackRock runs the world, Marty. Have you not seen the latest James O'Keefe?
Yeah, I did see it, but do you think that recruiter actually? You think he was just fluffing for a date?
You know who's the top two shareholders of Tesla?
Vanguard and BlackRock.
Yeah, you know who's the top shareholder of Vanguard?
No.
BlackRock.
Interesting.
BlackRock controls Elon. Elon controls the blue checks. It all lines up.
He doesn't control
me.
And
the ETF will get approved.
I'm in here leaking Blue Check Club Alpha. He doesn't control me. We were sworn to secrecy. I signed an NDA.
Okay.
I just broke it. Logan, pull up the tweet. Going back to the idea that there may be clawbacks. Bill Manion from River was one of my trusted lawyers in the space. He's not my lawyer. I just trust his opinion. He added some context to this. First, River employees saying, first, people should always withdraw, but since I'm opposed to the unsupported FUD coming from qualified custodian supporters, I think the concern is overblown in terms of...
It means Corey.
In terms of clawbacks. Ordinary course, quote unquote, ordinary course payments are typically exempted from preference actions, and that would seem to be the case here. Then David Bailey says even with cases of fraud, is the transfer, and then Bill says that the transfer from Prime Trust to the Prime Trust using exchange fraudulent, or is there just fraud involved? I think your original tweet was about preference actions and quote unquote ordinary course would be a decent defense. Fraudulent transfer has a 2-year look back. But if the funds went to a creditor to extinguish a debt, then this becomes a very difficult case. So I think Bill's saying that clawbacks are probably unlikely. There's a legal defense in terms of quote unquote ordinary case that should be able to protect end users who bought and withdrew Bitcoin, or companies that were interacting with Prime Trust that accepted Bitcoin on behalf of customers, that it will not be clawed back.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really far-fetched to say that people are going to get clawed back if they took self-custody.
I think that's impossible. I guess the higher
theoretically
likelihood
possible.
is companies having to give Bitcoin back to Prime Trust, but even that seems like a little...
Probably a reach.
Yeah.
Drama sells. People love that engagement.
It does. So what do you think? We had a big week. It was funny. We've had Blackrock ETF announcement that was followed by a flood of more ETF filings. And to be clear, not technically ETFs. These are grantor trusts. It seems that
doesn't fucking matter.
Doesn't matter. There is nuance to it. The grantor trust, that's what GLD is. So they're more akin to GLD than GBTC.
Yeah, but everyone calls GLD a fucking ETF.
I know.
Because it's traded on an exchange and it's a fucking fund.
Yeah, but like an ETF, if you want to get in, like an ETF is an exchange traded fund, is supposed to follow an index usually of stocks or commodities, and the grantor trust is just one commodity.
In practice, it's the same thing.
Yes, but we had those announcements. BlackRock, obviously, Fidelity, I believe, Citadel, and Valkyrie funds.
We knew about Fidelity and Citadel launching EDX, but they actually launched. Like they had announced that they were intending to launch previously, but they launched this week. Which, I mean, we kind of talked about this earlier. First of all, never bet against financial corruption. Never bet against
crony capitalism.
Regulators being corrupt and bought. But they hit Binance, right? And I think this goes towards my concept that like Coinbase is just getting a slap on the wrist. Like Coinbase gets hit with like just some kind of fine, they settle. And then that way they can pretend like, oh, we're not attacking Binance, but they're just attacking Binance. And then the big players come in. BlackRock, who runs the world and controls the blue checks, comes in. They launch their ETF. They get out first. Citadel and Fidelity launch their exchange, EDX, try and capture as much volume as possible. Coinbase gets their piece because they're holding custody of the BlackRock funds and they get management fees on that side. And also, if we have a BlackRock fueled pump, that's just going to help Coinbase's business bottom line in general. And then you just kind of watch the whole thing play out. And why attack Binance? First of all, I've said many times that I obviously disagree with CZ's shitcoinery and some very questionable ethical behavior. And I mean, BNB is just a complete fucking shitcoin. Like if you're holding BNB, like you're a fucking idiot. But if you want to talk about, we've heard so much FUD about the BlackRock ETF. And I think most of it is unfounded. I think Bitcoin is designed in a way to be resilient and robust against a BlackRock coming in. And this was going to happen no matter what. So if you're concerned about it, that's fine. But I would say that you never really had true conviction in Bitcoin. And but the reason I say this is because one of the lines of FUD is paper Bitcoin, BlackRock using paper Bitcoin to suppress the price of Bitcoin. And I think this year has proven that anyone who plays paper Bitcoin games will get fucking blown out eventually. We saw that happen to Celsius. We saw that happen to FTX. We saw that happen to BlockFi. And we saw that happen to Barry. And anyone who plays those games will get blown out eventually, but I'm not sure if the blue checks realize that yet. And so what they did was they were like, let's attack Binance, because if we do want to try and do paper Bitcoin, and we do want to suppress the price of Bitcoin, then we can't have global unregulated exchanges happening that show the true price of Bitcoin. Because what happens in practice is humble stackers just continuously take Bitcoin off the market, hold it in self-custody, and use it in a circular economy. And then all of a sudden, what happens is you have the most scarce asset that humanity has ever seen, and the price should increase. And if you can't control every exchange, then the price will increase. And in that situation, anyone playing paper Bitcoin games get blown out, and they know they can't hit. Bitcoin's a global phenomenon. It's a permissionless open financial network. They can't stop every exchange, but Binance controls, 50, 60% of global volume. So if they can take out Binance, that's a nice, knock that they can take out of, the rung of global Bitcoin trade, and they can suppress the price. They can try and suppress the price of Bitcoin. They believe they can suppress the price of Bitcoin, but they can't. And so I would say on both BlackRock FUD lines, whether that is a proof of stake fork, which they might try. Anyone can fork if they want to. Or if that is a paper Bitcoin play. I think in both situations, what happens is an attempt might be made. It very well may be made. And when it's proven unsuccessful, it is going to be the most bullish event in Bitcoin history. Like, people will, like, if they try and do an ESG fork, if BlackRock tries to do the granddaddy of ESG, if they try and do an ESG proof of stake fork and they fail, which they will if they try, there's going to be a bunch of people sitting on the sidelines like, oh shit, like, this is the real deal. Like, BlackRock controls everything, but they can't control fucking Bitcoin.
Yeah, it would be massively bullish. And I find it hard to believe it even gets there. I think they have to realize this game theory. Maybe they do have the hubris. Maybe Larry runs the world, thinks he can run Bitcoin. He will not be able to. And diving deeper, Jesse Myers from OnRamp did a deep dive into the the filing for BlackRock's trust, and it's different than GBTC because it lets you take in-kind redemptions. But if you actually read the filing, the fine print, it says that you have to be an approved broker dealer to actually take in-kind redemptions in Bitcoin. So if you're buying the BlackRock trust, the ETF, we'll just call it the ETF, if it gets approved, and you're thinking that you're going to actually be able to take Bitcoin in kind out of that fund, unless you're an approved broker dealer by BlackRock, that is not going to be the case. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, but in terms of price action, that should be enough to keep it in line with the Bitcoin price, so you don't have like a discount like GBTC. And yes. I assume for the elites, right, they like basically call up their guy at Fidelity, and then Fidelity takes in kind redemption, and then Fidelity then sends you the Bitcoin.
Does Fidelity even do that yet, though? I don't think they let
I'm using Fidelity as like an example, right? But
yeah,
that would be the process. And that lines up way more with, I mean, there's a bunch of rich people that have never even used like Charles Schwab or Robinhood or TD Ameritrade, or TD Ameritrade is Charles Schwab now, but like have never used, they literally call a person. They have a broker that they call and they're like, yo, Joe, like, make this trade, do this thing for me, send this wire. And it would be the same situation as this. Like, oh, I want this Bitcoin, go and redeem it.
Yeah.
Once again, no one should buy the BlackRock ETF, but I'm just saying that it lines up from their perspective.
Yeah. Don't buy the BlackRock ETF. Point of note, too. I know we're all over the place right now, but back to Prime Trust, I think an important detail to mention why things are going terribly bad and why people can't move their funds today is because they've received a cease and desist order from the Nevada state regulators. A few freaks. Remember, we've talked about this throughout the years. Prime Trust has been leveraging a Nevada state charter to leverage their money transfer licenses to be able to service all these customers across the United States. And so with the cease and desist order, those MTLs essentially get borked overnight, and that's why you can't move any funds in and out. So just thought that was a detail that we missed and we should bring up. But yeah, back to the ETF stuff. Whether or not it gets approved is yet to be seen. We'll probably know, I believe, from filing till a decision about approval or denial is typically 75 days. So we're about 10 days in almost, or a week in almost, 7 days. So in about a little over 2 months, I think within 2 months, we'll have a decision from the SEC about whether or not that is approved to go live. And then it'll probably take some time after that approval, if it gets approved, to actually go live. So it'll probably be around this time next year, I would imagine, if it gets approved.
Do you want to bet? I bet you it gets approved.
Oh, no, we have too many bets going right now.
What do you think happens? Does mempools clear first, or does BlackRock's ETF get approved?
Well, I don't think they're going to clear in 63 days. I have until Christmas. So just being a smart bettor, risk allocator, BlackRock approval probably happens before.
I thought you said it was going to... Okay. I agree. Because mempools are never going to clear again, and the BlackRock ETF is going to be the first one. I would bet that the BlackRock ETF is, or whatever you want to call it. Like, don't hit me with on technicalities. There's not an ETF. That's just getting approved. They would not do it otherwise. It's so corrupt. Everything's so corrupt, and that's why the price is pumping, because everyone's racing to front run them, even though we've been front running BlackRock this whole fucking time.
No, dude, it's true USD. Did you see they printed 1 billion true USD stablecoins? The price pumped. BlackRock's the noise. True USD is the signal.
Yeah. Bitfinex was on that, right?
Yes. Bitfinex.
He doesn't have you blocked?
He doesn't.
I had to read that tweet in incognito mode.
I never
because
engaged
I've been
with
blocked
him.
for years.
I've never engaged with him.
He sold his Bitcoin at $900 because he was concerned about Tether, and has just been fudding ever since.
His butt hurt. Yeah, but it's weird. I think it should be noted too. Marty Jones was going off this week. It's just been like a weird series of events. Coinbase, Binance getting attacked by the SEC, BlackRock coming out shortly thereafter, EDX finally launching, and we should actually talk about the technical details of ETX because it is pretty unique and actually doing it somewhat in the right way.
What EDX is doing similar to kind of what you said with the BlackRock fund, where it's like
they don't actually
they're
custody
facilitating
funds.
they're facilitating other broker dealers. Like a pleb can't just like sign on to EDX and trade Bitcoin. It's like you'd go onto like a white label service provider. You go into like Charles Schwab or something, and you could buy Bitcoin there, but it'd be powered by EDX behind the scenes. And then maybe Charles Schwab holds custody in that situation. And maybe Charles Schwab lets you withdraw. But EDX doesn't hold custody.
Yeah, EDX never holds the Bitcoin. They're essentially just
they're like a
order
matchmaker.
book. Yeah, an order book.
For broker dealers, though.
Yeah.
Not for plebs.
No, not for plebs. You're not going to be using
Bluechecks only.
EDX. But so that gets announced, and then you have Jerome Powell on Capitol Hill this week during the House Financial Services Committee, basically saying that crypto has staying power. So he admits that. You had Sam
what was really
Bankman-Fried.
bearish was Kramer said that he's not against all crypto, which is that's a bearish sign.
Yeah.
The inverse Kramer index.
Is he always drunk?
But I saw like Crypto Rand respond underneath. It's like, Jim, did you have vodka with your cereal again today?
He seems like he's always drunk.
Probably. That's the only way he can live with all of his bad advice.
This could all be a coincidence. All these events happening in sequential order.
There is no way the Binance hit and then the BlackRock ETF is a coincidence.
I know. I agree
no
with you.
shot in hell.
I agree with you. Just saying. Could be a coincidence. I doubt it is.
The Titanic didn't sink itself.
It all seems so perfect. So what do you think? Is this a boxing out of the industry? Do you think?
It's an attempt.
Yeah.
It's an attempt. I think they will not. I think they will fail.
Yeah.
But an attempt is being made, and it just shows they don't fully understand Bitcoin yet.
Yeah.
They don't understand that the cat's out of the bag.
There's definitely
And global free markets are here, and there's nothing they can do to stop it.
There's definitely something going on behind the scenes. We've talked about this off air, and I feel comfortable saying it on air without leaking too many specifics. But I have an investment banker in the family, and he's reached out to me at very interesting times. The first was when SVB was blowing up. He reached out like, "Hey, we're interested in exploring some Bitcoin companies." And then the second time he reached out was this week when all this shit's going on. I was like, "Oh, what are you hearing behind the scenes?"
Well, I mean, even in front of the scenes, regardless if BlackRock gets approved, them attempting it is a major signaling mechanism to all the suits.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, BlackRock is granddaddy of ESG. Obviously, ESG has been used as a massive complaint against Bitcoin. And so, like, when you have the largest asset manager in the world announce that they're going to launch a Bitcoin product, and then all of a sudden, all the suits are like, "Oh shit, you know, those crazy guys were right, and Bitcoin is here to stay. And now I need a Bitcoin strategy, and I need to front run whatever else comes next." Right?
Yeah.
There's tons of suits right now that are just rethinking their whole perspective on Bitcoin just because of the BlackRock news.
Yeah. Yeah, in a way, I mean, Grant wrote that piece yesterday for 1031. It is massive validation. If you dig into the filings too, they do specifically say things like Bitcoin is unique. It is the most decentralized. It is the most robust. It is a commodity. It is separate from crypto. So that's sort of a signaling mechanism from BlackRock. Like, yeah, this thing is different. And like Matt said, that sends a bat signal out to all the bankers like Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. It's like source seagulls, but for Bitcoin.
Particularly in this macro climate. By the way, I'm not going to let you keep going after source seagulls. People should ask for sources on Twitter.
I agree. It's just don't be so aggressive. Don't be like an annoying seagull. Like, I'll give you the source. Source.
But like, I mean, anyone who has any that's paying attention at all knows that this macro climate right now, this current situation that the global economy is in, is just, we've never been in this situation before. We are in uncharted waters, and people are trying to figure out how they should deal with that. And Bitcoin is this, completely new, untouched financial product. I mean, we think it's the best money the world has ever seen, which it is. But to them, in their head, they're thinking, Bitcoin is this completely separate parallel system, and our current system is completely fucking borked. So I should be paying attention to this. And then BlackRock comes in and is like, yeah, we're paying attention to this. And they're like, fuck, $11 trillion. Bitcoin market cap's 5% of that. Here we are.
Hey, we're here to help all you institutions. If you want to learn, we'll teach you how to do it the right way, how to control your keys, how to make sure that you can give your customers access to Bitcoin in a way in which they can hold their keys eventually. If you want to hit me up, DMs are open.
But only if you're a Bluecheck. Otherwise, he needs to follow you for you to be able to message him.
Not true.
Isn't that what Elon's rolling out?
I hope not. I'm still getting DMs from non-blue checks.
Elon's rolling out a quote unquote feature that you can only message someone if they're not following you if you're a Bluecheck.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I'll bring that up in next week's meeting. Don't like this feature. I think the guys are going to like the hat if I wear the hat to the meeting. They're like, whoo.
It's not an accurate Bluecheck. It has too many.
You sure?
It has too many edges. I'm well aware because I've been making a lot of Bluecheck memes lately where I put the Bluecheck into some template. So I know what the Bluecheck looks like. I have an accurate Bluecheck on my hat.
Well, I might have to take this off since I'm misrepresenting the Bluecheck club somewhat blasphemous. Yeah. What do you think this does? I mean, we don't really talk price too much on this show, but
and we've been wrong most of the times we do.
Yeah.
But directionally correct, which
Yes.
is important.
Do you think this ends up being like a CME futures 2017 launch where it's buy the news, sell the launch?
I mean, I think I am so fucking bullish right now. I don't. I don't think people are fully appreciating the scope of this news. Once again, largest asset manager in the world, grandfather of ESG, controls everything. They're like the top shareholder. Them and Vanguard are the top shareholders in almost every major company. They're launching a Bitcoin product. The suits are paying attention. All the rich people that have hundreds of millions of dollars, that have multiple yachts, that are not allocated to Bitcoin at all, they don't hold a single sat. They're all paying attention now.
There are 60 million. There are 60 million millionaires in the world. Not every one of them could own a third of a Bitcoin.
The overwhelming majority of them own 0 Bitcoin right now.
Yeah.
They own no sats.
And they
don't even have 42 sats. They have no sats.
People shit on Satoshi's supply distribution schedule, but it is really beautiful when you think about it. And according to Clark's dashboard, there are currently 19 million. Where is it? Oh, wrong side of the chart. 19,409,024.38 Bitcoin that have been distributed to the market. So 19.4 will round. So there are 1.6 million Bitcoin left. So we have more than 90% of the supply distributed to the network. And of that distributed supply, I believe something like 85 to 90% is held in self-custody wallets that exchanges and other third parties don't control. So that's like actually a beautiful thing. Like it's good that it took 14 years for the institutions to wake up. It's allowed the supply to be distributed to individuals. And if BlackRock did want to come in and buy all the Bitcoin, the people who've been in it and understand Bitcoin and its potential aren't going to sell their Bitcoin to BlackRock. So they have a very small amount of free float Bitcoin that they're going to be able to purchase. Not my coins either. And so, like, yeah, if you factor that in with all the capital and all the copycats that will come after them and them trying to get exposure to Bitcoin for their clients as well, they're going to be fighting over a very small overall percentage of the coins that have been distributed to the market already, which, again, we're not the trading crypto Bitcoin YouTube channel that's trying to share chart porn with you, but if we're being honest with ourselves, that is a pretty massive setup.
Well, if you look back,
massively bullish setup.
If you look back, I called the bottom the morning of 15K. I said everyone should stay humble and stack sats. Like I nailed the bottom on that.
But you say that every day,
including the bottom.
Yeah, incredibly bullish. Get your coins off exchange. Don't sell them to BlackRock. Not going to be a good idea. And it's going to be crazy when you think about it, like socially. Again, that stat is jarring. There's 60 million millionaires in the world. And if every one of them wanted to own a third of a Bitcoin, they couldn't. At this point,
we front ran most of them while shit posting about it on Twitter and doing this podcast. Like that is what happened.
I had to pull out the Bitstein quote now.
It's pretty fucking hilarious. When you start to think about it, it's really fucking funny.
Oh, I gotta find.
Like we've done the exact opposite of keep it to ourselves. We've been screaming it from the fucking rooftops, and we still front run the majority of fucking blue checks out there.
Pull this up. I think this might be top 5 Bitcoin Twitter Hall of Fame tweet from Michael Goldstein, November 25th, 2017. You, a Wall Street trader, spent years in school learning minutia of finance, 10 years of 100-hour work weeks, never see family, super excited about your 10% returns this year. Me, a Bitcoiner, read some books, shit posted on Twitter, ate some steaks, enjoying 900% returns this year.
Oh, I love Bitstein. What a legend.
And we're front running them all.
How great is that?
We're the captain now. Larry. That's another thing you don't understand about my fifth column blue check. Like
you're not a fifth column blue check.
I'm positioning a mutiny within the blue check
bullshit.
Community. The power's going to shift to us.
You have bent the knee. You have bent the knee, Marty bent. Marty bent the knee.
That was actually on the koozie for my bachelor party. Marty bent his knee. It's a good pun.
Here we are.
But that was proposed to my wife.
Ah, I get it.
Yeah, there we go. Good times.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in this case, it shouldn't be applauded.
No, it should be. You guys don't know.
But your wife is amazing, so that should be applauded. That was a good moment to bend your knee.
Yes. So is yours.
Thank you, sir.
But the only time you bend the knee is for the woman you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Or if you're getting a blue check, just to get information so that you can share it with everybody.
Fuck you, man. You literally, the first time I called you out for it, you pretended that you accidentally got the blue check.
I did
accidentally. And now you're trying
to
rewrite history. Check the record, freaks. Everyone can check the record. Marty just wanted to post longer Twitter videos and have more reach. He wanted that engagement, so he verified his identity. And that's why he's going to get the Neuralink.
For TFTC.
No chip, no bugs, no pod, no check.
All right. We got to keep going on. We got more topics to cover. About 45 minutes left. I mentioned it while we were going over Clark's dashboard. It seems that the weather is affecting hash rate again. As you freaks saw on the dashboard, we have a 1.9% negative difficulty adjustment on the horizon next week. If you're not living in Texas, I am here to report that it has been hot as Hades here. 105 across the board for like the last 2 weeks.
Damn, 2 weeks?
Yeah, that persistent heat has stressed out the grid here in Texas, and miners that are engaged in demand response programs down here have had to turn off their ASICs to serve electricity back to the grid, so we don't have any grid failures and people can turn on their air conditioning, and that has had an effect on hash rate. If you want to pull that up, Logan, I wrote about it in the Bent last night. Got a late Bent out. I almost didn't write the Bent. I was sitting there, you know what? The people need to know about this. Yesterday at one point, the active hash rate on the network was around 315 exahash. The 30-day average is sitting at 377, I believe, so there it is. 313 exahash was the current hash rate yesterday. The 30-day average as of last night is 376.87 exahash, so that's about a 17% reduction below the average of the last 30 days. So that is some signal there that miners have, or did, at least yesterday, turn off. If you go to insights.brains.com, or even if you just go to mempool.space, current hash rate is 340 exahash, so those miners have turned back on. We had some storms here in Texas last night to cool things off. But yeah, this brings up an interesting discussion about hash rate concentration. This is the second time miners in Texas have materially affected the intraday hash rate of the Bitcoin network, which has slowed down block production. It's not a massive disruption, but it is something of note. And typically when we talk about hash rate concentration in geographic areas, the conversation revolves around the regulatory risk of that. If you have too much hash rate in one country, one state, and that country or state, like China did in 2021, says, all right, we don't like you anymore, get out. That's a regulatory risk that can disrupt the network temporarily. Back in 2021, China kicking out miners reduced overall hash rate, I believe, by 40 or 60%, somewhere between those two, which was a disruption for some time. Many people focus on that regulatory risk, that state risk that exists, but I think with the demand response down here in Texas, particularly where a lot of the hash rate after China kicked out the miners has moved, brings up another interesting sort of debate about geographic concentration of hash rate, which is the effect it has on the overall reliability of block production. And I think that'll be a conversation that picks up, especially if Texas does become the mining capital of the world and you have these extreme summers and extreme winter events in recent years. Like having that hash rate come off the now, like if we have, let's just say the rest of the summer is 105, 110 across the board here in Texas, and these miners are responding to demand every day, like you're going to have pretty volatile intraday hash rate.
And that would probably mean that mempools would be less likely to clear.
That's true. That's true. You have any thoughts on this?
I mean, look, we don't want concentration in any particular region, and I think Texas is an interesting microcosm currently, because officials there have been very welcoming of this. Up until recently, they've been very welcoming of this demand response relationship. So as a result, even though if you took government out of it, if you took utilities out of it, and let's be honest, most utilities are very intertwined with their local governments. Maybe Texas wouldn't be the most desirable place for miners to be. Maybe there'd be a little bit more competition. But I think what happens on a long enough time scale is you start to see other regions and other parts of the world start to really understand how helpful this kind of demand response relationship can be, because Bitcoin miners are very unique in that regard. You can't just turn off a Netflix data center. Otherwise, people aren't going to be able to, stream their favorite movie or whatever. But you can turn off Bitcoin miners on demand, right? So they're very helpful to have on grids. And I think more regions will realize that, and we'll start to see things spread out more. But even as it currently stands, like I would say in terms of percentage of hash, and I'm curious, Marty, if you agree, in terms of percentage of hash, Texas has probably peaked. Like we probably will never have a higher percentage of hash in Texas than we currently have in terms of global hash rate. And with the understanding that global hash rate keeps increasing, which it should based on the fundamentals.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that statement. You have countries like the Kingdom of Bhutan coming out saying they're going to double down on their mining. Obviously, we know that mining is becoming more popular in Latin America, in the Middle East as well. You have UAE getting into the game, Abu Dhabi getting into the game, Paraguay, Argentina getting into the game pretty heavily. Okay, and El Salvador, obviously. Where the volcano, Tennessee. Keep Tennessee on the down low, please. Yeah, I would agree. I think Texas, I don't think the overall hash rate in Texas has increased. I think the overall hash rate will continue to increase. The cumulative hash rate in Texas will continue to increase, but in terms of its overall percentage of global hash rate, I think it will be outpaced in other regions of the world cumulatively.
Yeah, percentage-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think that thesis makes sense to me.
Agreed.
And I think in general, I think there's a greater concern of just large American public miners controlling a large amount of the hash rate. And I think I agree on that same thesis as well, where I think percentage-wise probably has peaked. But we'll see. I mean, if that's what's funny about the Blackrock FUD, because it hits hard on Twitter. Like it works really well in terms of engagement. So people have been really loving the Blackrock FUD. But the better informed FUD is the publicly traded Bitcoin miners. And I I think there's too many innate advantages of being more of a pirate and being a smaller miner, for that to hold up long term, just because of the regulatory burden, just because of everything else that comes with being a large publicly traded company with known data centers. Um, Maybe we haven't peaked yet, but we're close. I think we're close to that peak, and the incentives kind of naturally distributed out, from there.
Agreed. And actually, Logan, pull up the second tweet I posted, the most recent tweet I put in our Slack, because that ties into this. This is really cool to see our old stomping grounds, Brooklyn. There's a bathhouse in Brooklyn that's using ASICs to heat up their hot tubs.
Well, the best part about this was friend of the pod, Joe Weisenthal, posted like the Instagram comments underneath.
Yeah, people freaking out.
Everyone was free. All the Brooklyn Bluechecks were all freaking out about Bitcoin being mined at this bathhouse, which I just thought was hilarious.
Yeah, but I think this is a great example of the point you were just making, is that you're going to see more of these types of applications that aren't as obvious. They're not as big sitting ducks as the large publicly traded miners. People like the owner of the spa incorporating Bitcoin mining into his operation because it helps him drive down the cost of actually heating up his pools. That's, I think, just this application alone, Bitcoin miners becoming a part of the operational stack of spas that have hot tubs. That could be a significant amount of hash rate. Geographically distributed, ownership distributed pretty granularly as well. So there's two things. You want it geographically distributed, and you want it the ownership of the hash rate distributed amongst many players as well. Right now, with publicly traded miners, you have both problems in one. It's typically geographically concentrated and concentrated ownership in one entity.
The thing people don't realize about waste heat is the beauty of waste heat and using the heat from Bitcoin miners, to subsidize existing heating needs, is that waste heat is a diseconomy of scale. So for a lot of things, we have economies of scale where the more you produce, the lower your costs. We see that across industries. That's one of the reasons why you see mass-produced fiat garbage coming out of China. But with waste heat, there's a diseconomy of scale, which is you need to be able to use the heat for it to make sense for you, and you can't. In smaller operations, that is way easier to do. If you have a large warehouse, you're going to have a shit ton of fucking heat, and it needs to be locally. There needs to be a localization of where you use that heat. Like you actually need to use that fucking heat for something. So like I think, I mean, I don't know what the timeline is, but most apartment buildings, like landlords have a direct incentive for their hot water and their heat to be waste heat, and that is inherently distributed, right? People live all around the world, and that would be on a building by building basis. And I think we see that happen more and more. There's a bunch of companies that are focused on it. I don't know if the time is right yet. The single biggest thing is the life cycle for these mining chips, and that does continue to grow. So we are close. But someone's not going to change the boiler for their building every 5 years, because their mining chip is outdated. That is a more long-term type of purchase.
Yeah, but I agree. The life cycle of the chips is elongating. S9s are still profitable, below 2 cents, I believe. They've been around for almost 8 years now, which is pretty insane. So that's only going to extend as we reach the physical limits of the amount of electricity we can push through the silicon on these chips. And at that point, I think the future of the distribution of hash rate is really bullish. It's going to be distributed geographically and from an ownership perspective, way more than it currently is. This is probably an ephemeral just trend in Bitcoin mining, these massive mega mines.
You mentioned Satoshi being quite smart about early coin distribution. if you actually go back to early Satoshi posts, I don't think he really, maybe he didn't really appreciate what was going to happen in terms of ASICs and stuff.
I think he tried to prevent GPUs, didn't he?
Yeah, but yeah, there's a theory that the reason Laszlo paid for the pizzas was because Laszlo came out with the first GPU software, and it was like a way GPU mining software, and it was a way for him to get back in good graces with Satoshi to distribute the coin that he had. But anyway, my point is if you have a new algorithm, right? We use SHA-256 in Bitcoin. When that new algorithm is getting bootstrapped and you're having ASICs, and when we talk about ASICs, you can essentially distill that to a single purpose computer chip that is designed to hash this specific algorithm, right? And in the early days of that adoption is when that production is most centralized and where that operation is most centralized, where you have very few manufacturers. Those manufacturers then control the distribution. They end up having kind of upstream value adds of actually mining with them and firmware. Yeah, like, I mean, we saw in the early days of Bitmain that they had the largest mining pool. They were the largest single miner. They were the largest single manufacturer. And there's this bootstrap phase that has to happen, right? And during that period, any proof of work chain, including Bitcoin, is its most vulnerable. And we've gotten past the majority of that bootstrap phase completely unscathed. Like, not, I mean, China banned Bitcoin mining, but really, like 17 times, but really, there was no real substantial attacks. And that window has pretty much closed, if not completely closed, for there to be significant attacks on that side. And I think that is incredibly underappreciated. And that is one of the reasons why it's if you wanted to bootstrap a true competitor to Bitcoin and try and launch a proof of work network, because the proof of stake networks cannot compete, and people don't realize that yet, but they will eventually. That window probably is just not open to you, regardless of every other belief you have about Bitcoin. You try and launch a proof of work competitor right now on a new algorithm, because you can't use SHA-256, because you use SHA-256, existing Bitcoin miners can fucking wreck you. You are just completely vulnerable, and all eyes are watching you. It's not just the cypherpunk mailing list with like 25 people on it. It's everyone is fucking watching you and can attack you in that situation.
Well, I would argue this has been true since like 2013, 2014. I mean, you remember that shitcoin wave where you had the fair launch proof of work coins, and they were all corrupted from the get-go.
I think on the Bitcoin side, Marty, it was 2017. It was Jihan not, and part of it was Bitcoin incentives, right? Jihan of Bitmain controlled the largest manufacturer of ASICs. He controlled the largest mining pool, and then indirectly, because of a lot of his buddies that were buying his mining chips were also mining, he indirectly controlled an overwhelming majority of the hash rate, and he was supporting Bcash, Bitcoin Cash, a hostile fork of Bitcoin. And he refused to deploy his full hash strength on that chain because of the incentives of Bitcoin. Like, don't get me wrong, it was because of the incentives of Bitcoin that he was afraid of killing his golden goose, so he didn't actually move that hash over. But that, to me, that was the turning point. The turning point was where he bent the knee, was like, I've failed. And then Bitmain splintered, right? And MicroBT essentially came out of Bitmain people, right? Like the lead engineer of
the
Bitmain,
founder of MicroBT.
It was like the lead engineer. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you start having other players start to come into the space. And I think that was the moment. That was the moment that we really got past that bootstrap phase.
Yeah.
And since then, that window has closed even more.
Agreed.
It's hard to objectively quantify, but.
No, I agree. And that's what you're just describing is like the Hashcash SHA-256 specific, like trying to launch Bcash, which uses the same hashing algorithm. Like, found out in 2017. Wasn't going to work, but again, even before that, there was this trend in like 2013, 2014 where you just use another scripting algorithm that wasn't SHA-256 and be like, this is going to be a better Bitcoin. They all got corrupted because they didn't have like a natural grassroots growth and hash rate like Bitcoin did in the early days. Everybody's on bitcointalk.org. Like, when's this fair proof of work launch going to be? And everybody would line up their GPUs or ASICs and just mine the shit out of it and really corrupt the distribution from the get-go. A little bit of Bitcoin history there. To tie up the mining talk, pull up the Pierre tweet, please, Logan. This is to go back to demand response here in Texas, and one of the arguments is that it can help level out pricing. And if I'm grokking Pierre's tweets, I'm not an expert on demand response and day-ahead pricing, but it looks like yesterday, the dotted line, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify or Bitcoin TV, you'll be able to see there's a dotted line that was showing that prices would hit $1,000 a megawatt hour, or like $1 a kilowatt hour, at some point yesterday due to the demand that was forecasted on Texas's grid. It did not come anywhere close to that. It was just below $250 a megawatt hour. And I think Pierre, in this tweet, he says, on days like this, Bitcoin mining load is negatively correlated with grid non-mining load. Bitcoin miners turn off to avoid high prices, handing over electricity supply to AC units, turning on to cool homes and businesses. This helps reduce electricity price volatility. So ERCOT was predicting that prices would jump up to $1,000 dollars per megawatt hour based on how hot it was going to be and the demand they were expecting. Because Bitcoin miners responded, it did not go nearly that high, just below $250 a megawatt hour. So I think, again, this is one data point, probably maybe not indicative of the overall effect of Bitcoin miners, but maybe yesterday Bitcoin miners, because they engaged in demand response, helped keep pricing low for the rest of the grid, which is pretty interesting. We're starting to get more of this data. And that's another thing with demand response and it being validated. I think certainly more validated than it was last year, but I think every year, particularly in the hot summers and the cold winters where we get more of this data, it's going to become abundantly clear that Bitcoin mining embedded in grid systems does provide significant value from a stability and pricing standpoint.
No, I agree. And I mean, I think Texas is proving that out, right? For everybody else. If people are paying attention, it's very obvious. I think there was even, did you see that Bluecheck tweet that was about the electric vehicles in Texas handling
Jesse
it?
Pelton? Jesse's tweet?
I don't think it was Jesse. I thought it was I thought it was a Bluecheck. I didn't know.
I saw Jesse tweeting about. Jesse was tweeting about.
There's like
Jesse. He's a Bluecheck.
There was 200,000 EVs, and there's 200,000 EVs in Texas, and if they plugged in, they would have made something ridiculous, like $10 million, I think, or something.
Found the tweet.
And getting paid back.
Yeah, the tweet is Texas has over 200,000 EVs, around 25% of their battery.
I was right about the check.
In parentheses, 20 kilowatt hours each would have supplied 4 gigawatt hours and made $20 million yesterday. EV owners can make thousands of dollars a year, with part of their battery on a few peak afternoons. More than 50% of those EVs are Tesla. Tesla, please enable V2G. ERCOT needs it. And I mean, it's pretty cool.
This was a different tweet. To be clear, this is a different tweet than the one I saw.
Oh, it is?
But what they could have made $20 million yesterday. Yeah, because the one I saw, the one after, was asking Elon to, I guess Teslas don't support vehicle to grid, and they were asking Elon.
Yeah, I just said that. More than 50% of the EVs are Teslas. Tesla, please enable V2G.
Oh no, this is it. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah,
this must be the one I was talking about.
Yeah,
I apologize, freaks. I apologize, Marty.
That sounds like a bit. It seems like an over-engineering of a problem. Just build more natural gas plants.
No, yeah. I mean, the first thing I thought is like, oh, energy costs are like going through the roof. Like, oh, my vehicle that I require to transport me places, I'm gonna deplete its battery when I'm gonna have to recharge it if electricity is expensive. Like, you have to basically make that decision for yourself. Um, well, I actually like would probably, as a owner of gas powered vehicles, if I saw energy going up, my immediate reaction would be to get as much gasoline as possible into them and into external tanks so that I would be good in that situation. This would be the opposite. But my point remains that it's the normalization of demand response as a concept. And I think that probably does help Bitcoin miners in terms of that narrative or that explanation. It's like, oh, it's what you're used to with your EVs, right? And like we see, like states like California, complete failed state, they are going to adopt demand response on the EVs first, right? And so once they adopt that, then you go to them and you say, you see this program you have, this program is way better, and you're able to kind of use that as a narrative bridge. I remember during their last price spike in California, people who owned electric vehicles there had to use gas generators to charge them because they were policing the grid and said you couldn't charge your electric vehicle.
Yes. California is a failed state. And imagine, like, you have a Grateful Dead concert somewhere in California. Everybody's going to be driving their EVs to the show. They're not going to be showing up to sell their battery electricity back to the grid. It's much easier just to have the Bitcoin miners there on all the time. They're not going to go to a Grateful Dead concert.
It goes back to, first of all, I hope you're not disparaging the dead in your comment.
No, I love the Dead.
Okay.
I love the Dead. I've seen them. John Mayer with Dead & Co. is a very good show. I've seen them twice.
Fantastic show.
Yes.
The good vibes. I mean, it goes back to the whole Netflix example, right? Is if you're using EVs for your demand response, like people still need to travel places. But with Bitcoin miners, you can literally just fucking turn them off and there's no negative.
In 15 seconds. You don't have to wait for somebody to show up to a charging station. It could take forever. We know traffic is bad in California. Maybe it's not a dead concert, it's just bad traffic. You can't get there.
There's always bad traffic.
Yeah.
In California, they only talk about two things. They talk about weather and traffic.
That's it. All right, that's mining. Very interesting. We're learning a lot here on the go. And I think it is, being sincere, it is really fascinating to watch this all play out real time, get these reps, if you will, with Bitcoin being integrated in demand response systems. It seems like from observation over the last couple of years, it is getting more sophisticated. It is becoming more reliable. It's great to see. I mean, that's something we've been saying here for years, is that Bitcoin mining is going to become completely integrated in energy systems globally. And it seems like that thesis is being validated, at least here in Texas right now. So it's cool to see. Very bullish overall in energy. The energy sector is the base layer of our society. We can't do any of this without energy. And so in terms of, we can talk about getting BlackRock involved in Bitcoin as high leverage. I think something that's even more high leverage is getting the energy sector, the most important sector of the global economy. Once they get it and they say, hey, we actually need this, you can't take this away from us, that's a pretty big win for Bitcoin overall. This was unfortunate to see. Have you heard of anybody that was scammed by this attack? The fake Trezor wallet app was the top search result for Trezor in the Apple's
No, but
App
I
Store.
saw you covered it in the bent, and I thought that was a good PSA that you did. And yeah, I mean, I assume there are probably thousands of people that have been scammed by this. There's a fake Trezor app in the Apple App Store, so don't download it. And I mean, Marty gave a bunch of different recommendations, but the number one recommendation, if you're using a hardware wallet, is any of the top hardware wallets. And I will once again reiterate that my favorite one is the Cold Card. But any of the top hardware wallets, whether that's Cold Card, Foundation, Trezor, even Ledger, Bitbox, they won't ask you to put your seed phrase, your secret backup words, directly into the app. It will always be onto the device. So if you have an app that you download that is, you're used to it being your normal app, maybe it looks exactly like Ledger Live or Trezor Web Suite or whatever app you use for Bitcoin, and it asks you for your secret backup words, that seed phrase, whether it's like 12 words or 24 words, and it asks you to put it in to the computer or to your phone, it is trying to scam you and take your money. You should be putting it directly into the hardware wallet. And hardware wallet manufacturers, they're obviously, we've been in the middle of fights between all of them about how which one secures which better or whatnot. The single best thing that hardware wallets have done is that they have normalized the practice of not entering that secret phrase words into your internet connected devices. You enter it into the hardware wallet itself. That is where you enter it. Keep that in mind.
Yes.
Be aware, freaks.
Be aware. Nuance here. If you're using a mobile wallet like Blue Wallet or Moon, I'm not sure how Moon doesn't use seed phrase recovery, right? They use some different backup. But with Blue Wallet, something to note too. Let's say if you're the only time you should enter a seed phrase is if you're intentionally recovering from seed, and then you type it in, and you should immediately, if you do recover from seed using a mobile wallet and you're forced to type out the words in full, you should immediately sweep the Bitcoin from that wallet in case your phone has some keystroke malware on it or something like that.
What Marty is trying to say is that one of the cool parts about hardware wallets is the good ones all use the BIP39 standard for these secret word phrases, these secret backup words. So if for some reason Cold Card goes out of business and you can't get a hardware wallet, or for whatever reason you're in a country where you can't get a hardware wallet and your hardware wallet stops working, you can recover it in the good software wallets like Blue Wallet. You can recover it in Sparrow Wallet, which I love on desktop. You can recover in that situation by simply entering your words in. Now, I will say, and in that situation, it is on an internet connected device, and you have to assume that it could be compromised in that situation, right? So, as Marty said, you want to send the transfer out right away, but if you're in a normal situation, and you can get another hardware wallet and enter it directly into that hardware wallet.
Yes.
And then you don't even have to deal with that. That is just in a situation where you can't get one, and you need to enter it somewhere.
Yes. Be aware, freaks. Be aware.
And yes, we have Randmore in the comments talking about Seed Signer. Seed Signer allows you, I actually have a sticker right here on my table of Seed Signer. Seed Signer allows you to build your own hardware wallet or signing device from off-the-shelf parts. In that situation, you would also be entering it directly into the Seed Signer. You actually, because it doesn't have a secure element, you enter it every single time you boot up the device. When it loses power, it forgets the seed. It's designed to forget the seed. I will say that there's a lot of nuance here.
As always, beware of the nuance, freaks.
But I personally like Seed Signer more in a multi-sig quorum as one of the signers rather than as a single sig signer, particularly if you're buying a pre-built Seed Signer. So just keep that in mind. But if you're building it yourself, throw model is a little bit different. I do not like the idea of sharing Seed Signers. People constantly recommend sharing Seed Signers among people. It has no secure element. There's no data integrity there. Someone can maliciously change the firmware and you don't even know, and you upload your seed. Yeah, there's nuance here. Most of these attacks are just completely theoretical. If you use this hardware wallet, you are ahead of 99% of the world, and you're way, 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 way farther ahead than all the millionaires and billionaires that we've been front running this whole fucking time.
Agreed. some other things to be aware of too. Like if you are going to download like something like Trezor Suite or Ledger Live or Sparrow, anything that you'll download on your phone or desktop, use multiple avenues to verify that you're actually downloading it from the right place. Find the official Twitter account, the official website, reach out to a friend, reach out to us, be like, hey, is this what I actually need to download? Ideally, you go to the GitHub page, download it from source, and verify the PGP key associated with the project.
Nobody's doing that.
Nobody's going to do that.
You should do that. You should do that. And if you have a Mac, if you go to GPG Tools, I think it's gpgtools.org. Let me check. gpgtools.org on Mac is probably the best UX that you can ever get for verifying GPG and PGP keys of downloads. And basically, what does that prove? All Linux computers have it built in, not GPG Suite. You have to use the command line, but they have GPG built in. What does that do? It means that, let's say you're trying to download Sparrow Wallet. It proves that Craig Raw was the one who put that download up there. It proves that the creator of the wallet, the maintainer of the wallet, it wasn't modified before you download. It doesn't stop you from getting rugged by the actual creator of the software, but it stops a man in the middle from coming in and putting a malicious software update there, which we have seen in the past, malicious software updates. Now, if you use an app store, Apple and Google have their own kind of protections in terms of trying to verify whether or not that's a legitimate download. That is probably good for most people's threat models, but it's worth noting that, of course, they can corrupt that process in that App Store process. We have Philip Rizzo in the comments, who, by the way, I just love that you just constantly participate in RHR. I've gotten to know your brother very well, so it's just cool to meet his brother through the RHR comments, saying that he tested his backup today on Green Wallet this morning. Is that okay? It was cool to see. It is definitely cool to see, but now your seed was put into an internet connected device, and I hate to tell you, you should probably create a new wallet on whichever hardware wallet you're using, and then send your funds to that new wallet, and never put your seed into an internet connected device. That is I assume your cold storage savings. You do not want to do that. And then last but not least, I would say is one of the cool aspects of wallets that have secure elements, like the Cold Card, like Foundation, like Bitbox, like Ledger even, is that because they have a secure element, they're able to take the signing key of the maintainer and they're able to keep it in their secure enclave. And as a result, what that means is you should still PGP verify your firmware downloads, but the device is supposed to check to make sure that in the case of Cold Card, to make sure that Coinkite was the one who issued the firmware update. The Cold Card is designed to tell you if it's a malicious firmware update because of the secure element, which is just a really nice additional feature because, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of people are not going to check their PGP and GPG keys. So yeah, keep that in mind. Be aware, freaks.
Be aware. Keep going. I got to respond to something real quick.
I'm going to keep going. We have a bunch of software updates. Wow, we really did not get through this list. I forgot to mention that Nostr, the interoperable, permissionless, censorship-resistant communication protocol that Parker will come around to understanding the power of gradually then suddenly, has surpassed 1 million Bitcoin transactions through the protocol. So if you use Nostr, one of the popular uses of Nostr is as a Twitter replacement. There's a bunch of clients that allow you to post these Nostr posts, and then people can send you Bitcoin transactions all through the Lightning Network. We have passed 1 million transactions. The first 1 million transactions are the most difficult. We are going to go way up from here, and if you're not paying attention, you probably should be. Next on the list, we have Voltage Surge has launched. Voltage Surge is a awesome tool from the Voltage team that lets you easily see all the different health statistics and the different metrics that you'd want to see when you're managing Lightning Node. If you've been listening to Rabbit Hole Recap for any amount of time, you know that we run many Lightning nodes here, and it can be a pain in the fucking ass and a massive mental burden. It is really cool that Surge is now available and allows us to much more easily manage our Lightning nodes. It's just really clean. Everyone should check it out if you use Voltage. It's really cool. I do appreciate it. And one of the cool aspects of it is there's other tools like RTL, Ride the Lightning, Thunder Hub, Lightning Terminal. Lightning Terminal just released an update as well that has this auto fees mechanism that is quite cool. That lets you more easily manage your node. What's one of the cool things about Surge is you can actually connect multiple nodes relatively easily. So you can see all your node metrics in one place if you're running multiple nodes. And it's all at a very competitive price point that is not just for enterprise users. Us plebs can use it as well. My favorite Nostr client, Primal, now has custom notifications and direct message support. This was a really big update because apparently I have not been responding to Nostr DMs because I've been using Primal and it didn't have direct message support. So now I can finally start replying back to my DMs. Primal is also testing out their iOS app, their Apple app. Right now it's desktop only. You use it with Albi or another extension that holds your private key for you. But they're planning to release on mobile, both Android and iPhone. And CEO Milan, who is a impressive builder and has a fantastic team over at Primal, will be at Bitcoin Park for our Lightning Summit July 13th and 14th. I'm very excited about it. We're going to have some good Nostr discussions with him in town. I'm excited for him to jam with the Mutiny Wallet boys as well. That's July 13th and 14th. bitcoinpark.com/lightning23 if you wish to join us.
I will be in town for that. Thank you for putting up with my my distraction here. I had to take care of something real quick. But yes, I'm excited for Primal, for the Lightning Summit in Nashville. Shout out to Nostr. Over 1 million zaps. We're going to win, freaks.
Dude, 1 million zaps. That's big.
That's a lot.
That's fucking big.
You haven't sent me one yet, though, so that's pretty.
No zaps for Bluechecks. I've been talking to Milan. I want Primal to have a feature that checks Twitter and lets me know if I try and zap a Bluecheck. I want them to let me know that this person has a Bluecheck, and it's like, are you sure you want to zap the Bluecheck? And then you have to press yes or no. Like you have a prompt.
It seems like a distraction for the Primal team.
It sounds like a Bluecheck feels a little bit threatened.
No.
And doesn't want this very useful feature to be rolled out.
Let's see. My last zap was 42 minutes ago. I got 21.
No zaps for Bluechecks. Whoever you were, don't zap them again.
Yeah. Be aware.
Be aware.
Before we get through the rest of the software updates, we do have to read 2 weeks worth of shout outs. We didn't read them last week when we were in
Boostagrams.
Boostagrams, yes.
There are no shout outs anymore.
When we had our party rip in Nashville last week, we did not get to them, so I'll read first. Top 4 Boostagrams from last week's rip: $257 million Bitcoin by end of day. Marty Matt, highest of signals as always.
What a great title.
Appreciate you. How about adding just one more conference to your list and come out to Pacific Bitcoin this year? I think I will be at Pacific Bitcoin this year.
I will probably not be there.
At Eric99, 50,000 sats. Stay humble, stack sats.
Great advice.
At 8 Mithrandir, 21,000, 12 sats. Palindrome boost, stay humble and stack sats. Sound advice until all your on-ramps get shut down. The freaks need to invest time now on learning to use P2P on-ramps like Bisq and RoboSats before it's too late. And also, just accept Bitcoin for your goods and services. Great way to get P2P Bitcoin.
Yeah, shout out BTC Pay Server. I think circular economy fixes this.
Yes.
Shout out to all the merchants that accept Bitcoin using BTC Pay server. You're part of the solution, and I appreciate you.
At Mr. 5001 Sats, I want a Bitcoin Park hat.
You got to join as a member.
Are you a member?
Thank you for your support.
Going back 2 weeks, Rabbit Hole Recap 256, the bank runs continue at Free Critter, 161,723 sats. Big one. Hashing today's date for my overdue Boost Chain beta block proof of work. The RHR RIP confirmed I'm investing in the right areas with my time and treasure. Highlights worth replaying. Don't lose the plot. Right to choose the money you use. You need to get burned to learn. Who's the baddie here? ETH becomes the captured and controlled system. Be unruggable. Great counterpoint about Twitter, Marty. Thank you. Operate as if your electronic devices are compromised. And see you freaks at BitBlockBoom.
So that was a great recap of last episode.
2 episodes ago, yeah.
Oh, this is 2 episodes ago. Fair enough.
I'm bummed we didn't read this last week because this is very well boosted episode. At Lone Star, 125,000 sats. Love the show. Totally on fire once again, breaking down the crony moves with a scalpel and blowtorch. Keep it up. It's the combo you want. You want a scalpel and a blowtorch.
I know. It's very exact, but also brutal.
Yes. At Scarcity, 80,085 sats, a boobs boost. Boosting what Marty's golf score would have been if it wasn't a scramble. See y'all at the park. I take offense to that Scarcity.
You should. That was a dig.
That was a good dig. It wouldn't have taken me 80,085 strokes to get done. Okay, maybe 120. At Sveniol.
How many boosts are you reading?
This is the 4th one. It's the last one. 55,555 sats. Stay humble, stack sats, and read mandibles. Exclamation
Great
point.
Advice. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Mandibles.
Drink. All right, back.
I thought that was more than 4.
Back to, well, it was 2 episodes, so it was technically 8.
Oh, we were on the 2nd episode then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was confused.
I
I got a drink. Mandibles.
All right, we're going through this list. LDK node version 0.1.0 has been released. Running LDK. Ready to go. Lightning node library is ready for you. Provides a straightforward interface and an integrated on-chain wallet. StartOS, the operating system from the Start9 Labs team, version 0.3.4.3 has been released. If you're running the Start operating system, that upgrade is available for you. Trezor Suite, version 22.6.1 has been released. It's got a smoother coin join process. We're not particularly fond of that coin join implementation, but smoother process if you're running it. At Highlighter, version 0.7.0 has been released. Peach Bitcoin, the peer-to-peer
Shout out
exchange.
Pablo7Z. Highlighter is fucking dope.
It's a Nostr project.
Yes,
Peach, version 0.2.9 has been released. Peer-to-peer Bitcoin trading app. If you're running that, we've got a new upgrade, new app release. Bitbox app, version 4.37.1 has been released. Umbrel OS, version 0.5.4 has been released. They reimagined the App Store. It's a new App Store UI. Mutiny Wallet and Node updates. No version here. Mutiny Wallet and Node updates. Smoother and safer experience. Mutiny is web-first wallet capable of running anywhere, providing instant onboarding and platform censorship resistant, self-custodial, privacy-focused, and user-friendly. No information about the upgrade in that lead there. There's exciting updates, including a SendMax. I'm Ron Burgundy. Electrum version 4.4.5 has been released. OG Bitcoin Wallet. NDK version 0.5.4 has been released.
Is Pablo as well.
Nostr development kit.
Pablo's a beast. He's like a one-man machine over there.
He's got like 18,000 projects going on over there. Eclair Lightning implementation version 0.9.0 has been released. Seems like a major one. Dual funding, splicing prototype. Splicing's pretty cool. Bolt 12.
Most people's exposure to Eclair is using it with Phoenix Wallet.
Yes.
On mobile. Highly recommend Phoenix Wallet. Great wallet.
Is Bolt 12 live? We continued working on Bolt 12 support, made a lot of updates on this experimental feature. Getting close.
Yeah, the different teams are kind of working on it in parallel. We'll be talking more about it at the Lightning Summit. Feels like we're close.
Get to Nashville. Last but not least, Join Inbox version 0.8.0 has been released. This is a way to interface with Join Market, correct?
Correct. Join Inbox is an easy way to use Join Market, and it's packaged into the Raspberry Blitz node package.
Yeah.
I didn't put it on the list, but I had the chance of using Lightning Terminal from the Lightning Labs team, which is a way to manage your Lightning node. Pretty cool interface. Pretty happy with it so far. It has this auto fees feature, so your node can change fees on the fly automatically on a channel by channel basis, which I'm kind of curious on how that will work. So I'm going to leave that running and I'll report back to you guys. But I also connected to it using Lightning Node Connect, which is a new connection method that the L&D team has put out there. And I also use that to connect to Zeus. And I have to say, pretty great connection method.
Yes.
It's very performant. It's very quick. It's very easy to do. It basically gives you what looks like a seed. It gives you 12 words that you put into whatever you want to connect to. You get to put permissions on how long you want it to have access to your Lightning node. It's very clean. It's very clean, and it makes Zeus work way, way better than when you're connecting through Tor.
Hell yeah.
It relies on some kind of mailbox server, and I don't really understand what the trust trade-off there is. I think it's not a trust trade-off. I think it's a privacy trade-off. I'm not quite sure, but I'll figure that out, and I'll report back to you, freaks. But very clean, very performant, much success.
Yeah, the automatic fee optimization, routing fee optimization for people running nodes is really cool.
Yeah, it's hard to know what fees to set.
Yeah.
So I do wonder, at scale, if you have 70% of routing nodes using the same auto fee algorithm or something, you could probably have ridiculously weird edge cases. So hopefully,
does it get arbed out? That's the question. Or arbido? Does it get arbido?
Or what happens if it's just they're all auto feeing against each other? It's what the fuck's going on?
There's smart people at Lightning Labs. I'm sure they thought through this.
That's true.
What else do we got going on? Anything about Hunter Biden getting a slap on the wrist? Anything think there?
Did he get a slap on the wrist?
Seems like that's gonna happen. I think seems like he's gonna get probation.
I haven't been following it, but the blue checks are probably behind it.
Mm-hmm. You got that going on. That's why I think when I said earlier that the submarine thing's a psyop, I think there's been too much attention.
It's definitely it's a blue check psyop.
Yeah. What else do we have? The government admitted
it's
military.
To stop you from knowing that the elite sunk the Titanic.
Yeah, military admitted that they're manipulating the weather. Something to be aware of.
Source?
The military.
Source?
Military.
Source? I'm source seagulling you. Where did the military say this?
Let me find it. I gotta find it. Let me search military weather.
I enjoy source seagulling you on air.
U.S. military admits to altering the weather according to documents.
What website?
Need to find the documents.
According to documents.
I haven't found the documents. All right. Take that one with a grain of salt until we find the documents. What site is that? The leading report.
Look, I'm not saying that the military doesn't manipulate the weather. I just find it hard to believe that they would admit to manipulating the weather.
U.S. military research paper from 1996 called Weather as a Force Multiplier. Owning the Weather in 2025. The report outlines a strategy to use a weather modification system to achieve military objectives. So that's the document.
Yeah. Makes sense that they would try.
Yes.
Lines up.
HAARP, HARP. Look into it, freaks. It's real. Let's end on a good note, though. Larry, Papa Larry Fink, coming to pump our
Papa
bags.
Larry.
Thanks, Larry. I know
I will say
we've had a lot of beef over the years, but thank you for coming to pump our bags. That's all we care about here is number go
Larry
up.
can go fuck himself, but so can Barry. And it is pretty funny that after years of trying to get an ETF, like Barry owes people billions of dollars and he's about to get slurped by Larry and BlackRock. It's like there's a beautiful irony in that, I don't know. I think that's kind of funny. And
we talked about this, what was it, yesterday or the day before. And there are rumors that Fidelity is going to acquire Grayscale, which would mean they would acquire GBTC. And I guess a lot of people are theorizing that that is why the GBTC discount is getting closer to NAV over the last week. People believing that Fidelity is going to take over Grayscale, take over GBTC, and then turning it into an ETF. And they think that Fidelity will be able to turn it into an ETF because the SEC likes them more than Grayscale.
I think that probably is in the same vein as BitGo acquiring Prime Trust and Binance acquiring FTX.
I would agree with that.
There's way too much baggage there. There's way too much hopium. And if you own GBTC, I really don't, like, you've already made your mistake. I don't know what the proper plan is. I don't know if you try and hold it out and hope you get par value eventually, or if you try and sell this pump. Really sucks that you're in that situation. You're going to kind of have to make that decision yourself. But I would not bank on Fidelity or one of these regulated players, heavily regulated players, to come in and scoop up GBTC, because I just don't, what is the value add? If you start to look at the value add, you're going to scoop up this entity that
Bitcoin worth of management fees that you can get on top of it.
But those management fees you're not going to get when BlackRock gets their ETF, because those management fees are completely predatory and are way too high in an actual competitive free market.
Well, you can always adjust.
So you're not going to get those fees, and you can just start up your own. You can start up your own investment vehicle and charge whatever fees you want to charge, and you don't have all the baggage of owing billions of dollars to retail investors. So I just don't think it's going to happen. I think what could be more likely to happen is the kind of hostile takeover by shareholders that like force the hand, GBT shareholders, but I still don't even expect that. Like, I think that is mostly hopium. And I think these are all just very expensive lessons on why self-custody is important and why people should take personal responsibility. But when the BlackRock ETF gets approved, that GBTC discount widens even further. The rats are just going to all.
Can you even get out of GBTC right now?
Yeah, you could trade it. You could just sell it. You have to own the discount if you do that.
Yeah. Beware.
People are saying, we have Joshua in the comments saying the thought is the Grayscale spot ETF application could come next following BlackRock getting approved. It's just, no, it's not going to happen. Like, you think regulators like Barry, he's fucking suing the SEC. It's not going to happen. And he owes billions of dollars. I love the Gemini twins.
It's 1 billion, isn't it?
Billions.
8 billion.
No, he owes Gemini users $1 billion.
Oh, yeah.
He owes other people even more money. I just like the Gemini one because it's provocative. But, Cameron and Tyler are very outspoken for owing $1 billion to their users. Like, about SEC transgressions and stuff. Like,
they're adding Pepe coin to Gemini.
Stop
see
tweeting.
The commercial?
Stop tweeting. If they wanted my unsolicited advice, I would say just stop tweeting.
How are they going to pump Mars Juncture?
Mars. I forgot. They're up and coming band.
They're artist. Okay. The band is how they express their art.
Like, get your users their $1 billion that you owe them, and stop blaming it on Barry Silbert and pay them their fucking money.
If they do the Jersey Shore tour this summer, I'm definitely going to go to one or two shows.
You're gonna go?
Yeah, that's a freak heuristic. If the co-founders of the exchange where you purchase your Bitcoin start a cover band, get your Bitcoin off the exchange and find another one.
But not if they have original hits. Only cover band.
Only cover band.
Yeah.
Yes. They do the work. They do like the stereotypical covers. They do "Don't Stop Believing," like all the bullshit.
Poor Yellow has been doing "Don't Stop Believing" every day until we hit $100,000. But he's been doing it. Props to him. Props where props are due.
Well, Yellow, we're moving closer to 100,000. See if we did during the show. Currently sitting at.
Do you remember last week we were talking about God candles, and there was a God candle on Binance US? Did you see that?
Yeah, went up to like 136,000. So technically, Yellow, you might be able to stop.
No, that doesn't count.
Don't stop believing, but you can stop doing the stuff.
No, that's a cop out. We didn't hit 100K.
Well, Binance
US has no liquidity and is under attack by the US government, and that price doesn't count.
Bitcoin's at like 77,000 Argentine pesos. Pesos.
All-time high.
All-time high.
That's like my favorite Thanksgiving cope or whatever. They're like, "Oh, Matt, you wouldn't shut up about Bitcoin last year. Like, what's the current price of Bitcoin?" It's like, "Oh, well, it's, this in Argentine pesos, all-time high." Never really goes over well.
I can't buy anything with pesos here.
To be clear, Joshua, in the comments, that's Binance US, not real Binance.
Yes.
It's their subsidiary that has no liquidity right now because the U.S. government is trying to seize all their assets.
And Prime Trust just got rugged, which was...
It's like their main facilitator.
Yeah.
Not funny. It sucks. But also...
a little funny.
It's important to laugh.
Yes. Gotta find humor in this world.
Life is short.
You gotta be able to laugh at yourself. You gotta be able to wear the Bluecheck hat the whole episode,
How great was that?
That was good. Did you set
That's plebs coming together. No, I was aware. I was aware.
I was not. I like the hat though.
I was gonna debut this hat regardless if your hat came in.
If I wear this in public, do you think people?
I knew it was on its way.
If I wear this in public, do you think people think I'm just a huge douche?
No, you're in Austin. No, dude, you're in Austin. I feel like it's very normal for blue checks to walk around with.
Look, what do you think? Will people be like, wow, respect? Do you think they'll think it's funny or like that I'm actually trying to signal?
I dare you.
That I'm a blue check. Get out of my way, peasants.
Logan, you don't have a blue check, right?
No.
Did you hear that? You hear how he responded?
He's been very insubordinate the last couple of weeks.
I'm very proud.
That insubordination, I noted that in your file from last week.
If Marty becomes a problem, Logan, you can just move to Nashville and
you didn't tell us a joke. This is check 2, Logan. Next infraction of insubordination, I'm getting the switch out. We're gonna beat you on air.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
Things blue check say.
I'm kidding. You had the power with the blue check.
It's going to his head, literally. It's right there.
All right, should we wrap this?
Yeah.
I don't have a blue check, but I have a blue button that I can just click and end the stream.
That would be the ultimate form of insubordination.
I love you, freaks. I love you, Marty. Thank you, Logan, for everything. Resist the check. Stay strong against the check. Stay humble, stack sats.
Peace and love, freaks.